Welcome back, everyone, to another edition of Rudy's Rant, where we react to some comments that are made on different videos. And this is where we still practice facts over feelings, because that's what we do. Thank you so much for supporting our channels. Come on now to the podcast and jumping on board with my new channel as well. If you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button right now. Ring that bell as you get all of the future content immediately at your fingertips. I know I've been a little bit slow producing this, so I need to produce more content for you guys. I apologize for that in advance, but thank you for supporting our channels. I greatly appreciate it. Now to the topic at hand. I was actually recommended this video by by a viewer of um our Come On Now the podcast. I think it was Evie Rab mentioned this Jimmy High Roller video on Caitlin Clark, where I was talking about generational players and how what's her name? Paige Beckers is not a generational player. And comparing her to Caitlin Clark is utterly ridiculous, in my opinion. So I want to play this video that I've watched briefly. I have not watched it completely. So I'm going to be reacting as we go, right? But let me show you what I got going on here, and let's see where it's at. All righty. So if you haven't been to Jimmy High Roller, that's how you can reach him. I will tag him in the video. You probably already subscribed to him. He's got 2.5 million subscribers as it is. We look forward to being on that level one day. So you inspire us, Jimmy High Roller.
For placing any $5 weight.
Let me move it right into the right here.
On April 7th of this year, the women of the NCAA Basketball Championship accomplished something completely unprecedented. Throughout the game, they drew in nearly 19 million viewers, a number that shattered every NCAA women's record, exceeded the viewership of any men's tournament game over the last half-decade, and even surpassed every single NBA Finals game since 2018. The game was a groundbreaking spectacle, with people who had never even tuned into a single basketball game in their life turning on the TVs to see who would be crowned champions. The majority of this flocking attributed to one player, Caitlin Clark.
Yup.
Her unbelievable range and record-breaking performances proving to be must-watch TV. The true testament of her greatness and impact, all of the doubt and borderline detest that quickly followed her ascent. Some fans and players, both past and present, questioning if her talents would translate to the next level and if the horde of fans she inspired would follow. They did. Her WNBA debut attracted the most viewers of any WNBA game in the history of ESPN. Indiana's home game attendance jumped from an average of 4,000 fans last season to an average of over 17,000 fans this season.
Folks, that is the definition of generational. That is the definition of a generational talent. It's that simple. It's that simple.
A more than 400% increase in just a single year. Transactions in the Fever's team store jumped over 700%. And WNBA
transactions in the team store jumped over 700%. Folks, do you understand how much money that is? We're not just talking about basketball here. We're talking about everything surrounding it. It encompasses everything about Caitlin Clark. She is different. Paige Beckers, God bless you, Paige. You're really freaking good. You know what I've seen from Paige Beckers? You know where I've seen Paige Beckers before? Diana Taurasi, Maya Moore, Sabrina Ionescu. I can name 20 more. Cheryl Swoops. I don't know if you think Cheryl Swoops is 6'5". Cheryl Swoops is 6'1", 6 foot. Like this is what we're talking about. We've seen her before. We've seen the player that can average 20 a game, who plays good defense, who averages 3 or 4 assists. We've seen it. There's nothing special about it. We've seen it. Jackie Young. How many players do you want me to name who look very, very similar to Paige Beckers? which is why it's nothing that's going to make you go, woohoo. It's not. It just is not. But let's keep playing.
Viewership has skyrocketed to levels that even Clark's biggest advocates could not foresee. Game 4 of
You need to check out.
Wait, hold on. I apologize for the commercials. I wanted to bring it back here real quick. I apologize for the commercial. I don't have premium on this particular YouTube spot. I have it actually on my other one. I'm sorry, on my Google profile. So my apologies. Take a look at these numbers. 306,000 average viewership for regular season WNBA games on ESPN networks. 306,021. 372 and 22. 440 and 23. 1.4 million in 24. 1.4 million. Only the first 5 games of 24 are included in this thing. But it's pretty much the same number or very close. Look at the difference. You think that is the league organically growing? No. It's one player. Keep telling y'all. We've been saying it. It's one player. One player made the numbers go whoop, whoop. It went do 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 whoop. It wasn't like this. It was going do 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 whoop. But let's keep going.
See, Game 4 of last year's WNBA Finals drew in more viewers than any WNBA game over the last 2 decades.
And it was still 500 plus thousand less viewers than that average. And I think over 1 million viewers less, 1.5 million viewers less than Caitlin Clark's first game of the season with Indiana.
With 728,000 fans tuning in for the game, living up to the hype as one of the most anticipated games in the history of the league. This season, there were 22 regular season games that eclipsed that mark, 21 of them drawing in over 1 million viewers.
And of those games, without me even listening, because I know the numbers, at least 19 of those games were Caitlin Clark games. At least 19. Maybe 20. But definitely at least 19. Of these games, I have the screen over. That's why I point over here. 19 of these games, at least. The 2.3, the 2.25, the 2.23. Every one of those things that are over 2, those are Caitlin Clark. Like, I think the 1.5, one of those 1.5 ones or something like that, might be another game that's not her. But 19 of those first 20, 19 of those 21 for sure are Caitlin Clark. But let's see if he says it. I haven't watched it, like I said.
Even crazier, 18 of those 22 games featured Caitlin Clark and the Indiana.
All right, there you go. 18 of 22. So there was one with 1 million, one with 1.2, one with 1.34. So 18 of the top 20, is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. The top 14 are Caitlin Clark. 15, 16, 17, 16 of 17, 16 of 18, 17, 18. So 19 of the top 21. As I said, let me count this again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 19 of the top 21 games for Caitlin Clark. Keep playing.
Fever. But the most revealing evidence of the now dubbed Caitlin Clark effect is the fact that WNBA viewership has nearly caught up with NBA viewership in 2024. On ESPN, NBA games averaged 1.56 million viewers this past season. WNBA games averaged 1.2 million.
This is a flawed stat, by the way. This is a flawed stat. Let's explain why. They're only putting Caitlin Clark games on television. That is the flaw. So this is not a WNBA product. This is a Caitlin Clark product. Remember that. Caitlin Clark played a lot of Friday night games on Ion. Caitlin Clark is the effect. This is not a WNBA to NBA thing. See, that's one of my comparisons. This isn't a league thing. This is a player thing. Okay? For one, it's a player thing. You pull Caitlin Clark, the average viewership was 394,000. Consider the fact and I've done this math before already. Consider the fact that the WNBA only plays 40 games. All right. And pretty much every important game is on national TV. There are many games in the NBA that are unimportant. As there's 82 games, there's many teams no one cares about. While, yes, they overflow you with Golden State and the Lakers and the Pelicans and the Celtics, they still do put on the duds of the world like Atlanta and Charlotte and Washington and Toronto and what other ones can I think of? Portland. So it's not like they only put on. I'm sorry, I think it's moving around. It's not like they only put on Golden State 82 times a year, right? So the rest of those games are locally broadcast. The local broadcasts for Golden State, the Golden State Warriors, I will presume will be levels better than the local broadcast for the Golden State Valkyrie. The Dallas Mavericks will probably have a much better local broadcast than the Dallas Wings. Same with the Bulls and the Sky. Same with the Hawks and the Dream. Same with the Knicks to the Liberty, the Nets to the Liberty, the Wizards to the Mystics, and the Wizards suck. The Mystics were just as bad. The T-Wolves to the Lynx, the Lakers and Clippers to the Sparks, the Suns to the Mercury. What other one is up there? Seattle doesn't have a men's team anymore. Connecticut, I guess you could compare it to Boston, the Celtics. So all those things, keeping all that in mind, remember that the NBA, they play everybody, and they have more games. So there's more saturation. It's a longer season. People don't have the same energy in January. There's excitement in October. And then you get to January, February. Fans are suffering from that mental fatigue and so forth. And then you get to March, April, and now it picks back up.
In viewers, a number that was inconceivable just a couple years ago. But Caitlin Clark's soaring popularity has been a point of contention for many fans of the WNBA, frustrated that in a league that is bursting with talent right now, it's all just being overlooked for the poster child of women's basketball. Do Caitlin's abilities actually warrant the hype? In just her rookie season, Caitlin broke over a dozen league and franchise records, including the WNBA's single-season assist record. She set the record for the most assists in a single game. She received the most all-star votes of any player in WNBA history, set a new league record for double-doubles by a guard in a single season, scored the most points of any rookie in league history, and became the first rookie in WNBA history to put up a triple-double. Just this past week, it was announced that Caitlin made first-team All-WNBA, which makes her the first rookie to make first-team All-League since Candace Parker did it 16 years ago. Turns out those awe-inspiring performances from her days in college did in fact translate to the pros. Because even against the best defense in the world, she is pretty much an offensive cheat code. Throughout her rookie season, with points and assists, Clark generated 45.2% of all points produced by the Indiana Fever. For perspective, she has a larger offensive load than every single player in the NBA last.
Bro, it's not even close. This is not even close. Next is 32.9 points per game generated. Next is 38.9% generation of offense. The only person better is Luka Doncic. And he happened to average over 34 points a game, or 33 plus a game last year. Caitlin averaged 19.2 or 19.4, something like 19 point whatever. Luka Doncic averaged 34 plus points per game. That's remarkable. It's absolutely remarkable.
Last season, outside of Luka Doncic. And she's a rookie. But to really understand Caitlin's unparalleled offensive prowess, here are the 200 most productive offensive seasons in WNBA history on a scale of points generated per game. And among these seasons, you'll find the greatest players in the league's history.
All right, so listen up.
I apologize for this commercial break again. Let me pause.
Tamika Catchings, Cheryl Swoops, Candace Parker, and Angel McCoughtry have tons of seasons littered throughout this chart. Climb towards the top and you'll find seasons from Asia Wilson and Cynthia Cooper. But with 4 of the top 10 most productive offensive seasons in WNBA history is Diana Taurasi, her 2006 campaign being the best of.
Okay, I'm going to laugh right now because this number right here is generated points per game. Caitlin Clark was 38.2. She's not even on the screen. She's not. Sabrina Ionescu's right here, 32.5. Asia Wilson, 32.2. Cynthia Cooper, who is probably the greatest point guard right now in the history of the WNBA because of her accolades more than anything. She didn't average 8 or 9 assists, but her accolades and what she meant to the league, especially in its infancy, and the fact that she did it when she was in her mid 30s, which makes it completely remarkable. Caitlin Clark's not even on the screen. I presume she's gonna be way the hell up here somewhere.
Of them all, producing 33.9 points per game. And then there's Caitlin Clark.
There you go. There you go. There is the transcendent generational player.
Who is already the most potent offensive player in the history of the WNBA in her rookie season. Women's Hoops has never seen a player like this. And as
Look at that. Like, she's on another graph. This is like another, this is an alien. This is when you say the word generational. This is what we talk about. This is another planet. She's playing in a different game. She's playing chess while y'all playing checkers. That's how unreal Caitlin Clark truly is. She's got you in checkmate before you made the first move.
As absurd as her numbers are, how she puts up these numbers is just as incredible. Here are the players who attempt the longest three-pointers on average in the NBA last season, with Trae Young leading the league with the deepest three-point attempts with an average distance of 27.94 feet, and Damian Lillard and Stephen Curry just
Again, I haven't seen this. Caitlin Clark, I believe, is like a foot deeper.
a shade closer. Despite it still being worth the same amount of points, the longest shooters in the NBA are stepping 4 feet outside the three-point line on their attempts. But even amongst the deepest shooters in the world, Caitlin Clark is on her own island because throughout the 2024 regular season, her average three-point distance was 28.1 feet, which is not only further than any player in the NBA and in the WNBA, it is a whopping 6 feet out from the WNBA three-point line. Has Caitlin Clark been worth all the attention and hype that has engulfed her over the last 2 years?
Let's explain why that is, though. Before he continues. Let's explain why she is here to a line that's here. Remember, this is the NBA line right here. This is the women's line. Why is she here? Why? Because she's being guarded by 2 and 3 people. That's why. It's very, very rare that she gets an open look anywhere inside of this area. Very rare. Very almost shocking that she gets one there. You'd be happy if she got one like right around here. But she goes out here because she's being guarded by 2 and 3 people, and they almost never leave her alone. And it's almost shocking when they do. So guess what? That's where she's ended up shooting the ball from. And she can make it next year. I think it'll get a little bit closer because I think her body's gonna get stronger and she's gonna be able to brush these broads off of her and get shots up inside of that area. But we know why it was this year.
Years? Yeah, I'd say so. She didn't just have a successful rookie season. She had one of the best rookie seasons in recent basketball history. And this isn't just to her benefit, but the benefit of the entire WNBA. Because the seismic boost in the WNBA's popularity this season is not limited to those turning on the games to see what she'll do next. It can also be found in the fans actually showing up to the games. Looking at a chart of the average attendance of WNBA games since the inception of the league in 1997 will tell you a story of a league that has seen their fair share of good days and bad ones. In 1997, there were only 8 WNBA teams, all with really healthy attendance numbers due to the excitement of a new women's league. The league quickly expanded to 16 teams with a handful of teams emerging as fan favorites, like the Washington Mystics, the Phoenix Mercury, and the LA Sparks. But with a massive league expansion came a nearly equal retraction, many teams folding along the way, such as the Soul, Fire, Miracle, and Sting. But it wasn't until COVID where the league's once steady fan base was wiped out. In 2020, there were no fans in attendance due to COVID protocols, and when play resumed in 2021, attendance was at an all-time low, a number that has been quickly rising in the few years since the pandemic, but has specifically seen an explosion this season, where for the first time,
I'm sorry, commercial. I want you to see this again. Look at the Mystics up here and how they go. They're way up at the top. They go up and then they just flat out drop into the toilet. They go up a little bit, back down and back up, and just they're in the toilet to where they're playing now in a 4,000 seat arena. Like that's what they're playing. They're playing in a 4,000 seat arena. Looking for the Fever on this list. The Fever, where the hell? The Fever here in blue. Doo-doo-doo-doo. They were under 9,000. I guess yeah, the attendance in this league fell off the map, as you can see. But of course, if you
was
look,
higher than the WNBA's
and
inaugural
yeah, it's way
season.
up
The
here.
Indiana Fever seeing the highest attendance numbers in league history.
But understand that these all these numbers outside of the Liberty, for the most part, the rest of these names, even and the Aces because they won, but the rest of them, they all increased because of Caitlin Clark. Whether you want to acknowledge or believe it or not, all of them increased because of Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark, the attention she brought, increased all their numbers.
Selling out every single home game. In a league where attracting the casual fan has been a seemingly insurmountable task, Caitlin Clark has defied the odds by not only drawing in new fans for her and her team, but rising the tides for the entire league. This is completely unprecedented. At least in the WNBA it is. But there was a time when the NBA was facing similar struggles until a pair of players showed up and changed everything. After the success of the Celtics in the 1960s, the NBA's growth in popularity had come to a grinding halt in the 70s. The league had a rampant drug problem. An emerging rival league known as the ABA was picking up steam, and the NBA didn't really have a face to propel the league into the next decade. Jerry West was on his way out. Kareem was incredible, but he didn't really have the personality or charm that fans grabbed.
I want to pinpoint on the Kareem thing. Kareem was a curmudgeon. Kareem wasn't a nice person. He wasn't likable. He wasn't nice. He always was grumpy. Like, watch the stuff with Magic. Like he said, Kareem was always grumpy. Like he just was a grumpy Gus. That's just his personality. Even now, you see the Kareem as a grumpy guy. He's not. I think he's mellowed a bit as he's gotten older, but he's grumpy. You can't market grumpy, and that's one of the big problems with the WNBA. They're grumpy. They're all a bunch of bitter Betties who are grumpy and pissed off that Caitlyn gets all this attention. They're more focused on their activism and being a political platform than they are about playing ball and marketing their product. You can't have grumpy, never smiling, always angry, always bitter, always bothered, being the face of your league. That's why in the WNBA, there is no face of the league until now. Because on the worst day that Caitlin Clark has, you never see her attack another team, attack another player, or have a bitter look on her face. She's always pleasant. She always answers all the questions, and she smiles. And she just looks happy. She looks like a happy person, despite the fact there are so many trying to take her down and shit on her.
Gravitate towards. Bill Walton's prime was cut short due to injuries, and many fans felt Julius Erving's introduction to the league after leaving the ABA in 1976 was a bit short of what was advertised. Many games were lucky to see even half capacity in attendance. Many teams were losing money. The NBA had fallen to a, quote, second-tier sport behind the NFL, MLB, and NHL. All of this culminating to the point where some networks infamously had NBA Finals games on tape delay in the late 70s due to low ratings. The league was in desperate need of a generational, transcendent superstar. Lucky for them, they got two. Coming off the most popular rivalry in the history of college.
And the reason in this situation they had two was because you had the black and white component. You had the college rivalry that existed. And then they were both 6'8", 6'9". They both had very similar games in terms of handling the ball, passing, court vision. Bird was just a better player than Magic, though. Let's not get it twisted. Bird was better than Magic, and Magic knew it. Bird, for the first 6-7 years, was better than Magic. Magic became better than Bird towards the end of the 80s because he was more healthy. Bird's back started giving him issues, and the Lakers were winning more. Although the Celtics won 3 titles, the Lakers won 5. So, but yeah, you have to look at the fact that they came at the right time together. Remember, they played their rookie seasons the same year. Magic won the NBA Finals, was finals. I don't even know if was he finals MVP? Finals MVP. Game 6. Steps in for Kareem. Does his thing. Bird has a 32-game increase in wins for the Boston Celtics from 29 wins to 61 wins. He's the rookie of the year, and that pissed Magic Johnson off. He said it. Pissed him off. He's a competitor. But Magic got the ring that year. Not to mention, Magic beat Bird in the NCAA championship the year before. So you had them at the right time, and you'll never have that again in college sports for men because you just don't have players, number one, sticking around for 4 years. They don't even stay for 3 if they're that good. So they're gone after their freshman seasons. There's no rivalries that are developed that you can market. And that's part of the issue with NCAA men's basketball is you never know who's on the team. Like you have the Duke UNC rivalry, but the Duke UNC rivalry was not so much about, it was about obviously, Tobacco Road, but it was more about the fact these players played each other every year and it would develop and fester. Like you'd have these games in which Jeff Capel, hits that 3 to beat North Carolina, or Austin Rivers hits that shot to beat Carolina. You have the big time dunk by Jerry Stackhouse, the bloody faces with Tyler Hansbrough. You have all these things that you remember, these moments that you would have never seen, that you would never see today because those guys don't stick around long enough to have them happen. Or they transfer. Like the idea of someone transferring from Mike Krzyzewski was crazy. Like it wouldn't happen. Like Grant Hill was a freshman when Duke won the national championship. Or sophomore. He was young. I think he was a freshman. Like when he was playing with Christian Laettner, it's just different now. You can still have that though in the WNBA. You can, because they're forced to be there till they're 22. So you could still have that, but you're never going to have a player like Caitlin Clark again, not anytime soon. And you would need to have 2 of them, one white one and one black one, and them have a rivalry within college basketball. But that's neither here nor there.
College basketball, Larry Bird and Magic Johnson propelled the league to new heights in the 80s, transforming the NBA from a second-rate league into a behemoth of sports and entertainment. A tandem that many longtime NBA fans say saved the NBA. Now, this isn't to say Caitlin is the second coming of 2 of the greatest, most important figures in the history of basketball. But
she's actually more important, man. I don't want to say it. She might be more important because the fact that you had 2 allowed them to take the heat off the other. The fact that you had 2 of them allow them to divide that heat, divide that hype, divide that need to carry, right? On top of that, men's basketball players are just better. There's a lot more talent and competitive talent in the men's game than there is in the women's game. It's a fact, right? So when you look at it from that perspective as well, you have Caitlin Clark, who's doing something no woman has ever done before. It wasn't like there weren't people that could shoot the ball in 1980. It wasn't like they didn't have people that could pass the ball in 1980. Yeah, Magic had flair and Bird had his flair and Bird could shoot jump shots. People could shoot jump shots in the 80s. It wasn't like completely crazy to think that I can make a jump shot. But what Caitlin Clark does, no one can do. There's not a player in the history of the women's basketball game that can do what Caitlin Clark does. It's wild. So she might be more important because this league wasn't going to survive 5 more years of welfare basketball and the NBA cutting checks. This league simply wasn't going to survive another 5 years. Not to me. I don't think it was going to survive 5 more years. Without her, they're not opting out of the CBA. Without her, they wouldn't have private charters now for these teams. Without her, these buildings would still be empty. They're not like her. No one is. MJ might be the lone exception. MJ, Michael Jordan transcends everything. But let's continue. Michael Jordan transcends real shit. Fuck basketball. Michael Jordan transcends professional sports.
But her impact on the sport at such an early stage in her career has reached a level reminiscent of some of the most influential athletes of all time relative to their sport. Because her popularity hasn't just affected her, it has had a cascading effect on players across the entire WNBA. Clark has essentially become the gateway to NBA fandom for many people. They come to witness the phenomenon that she is and end up staying once they see just how awesome the league and its players are. Players around the league are signing groundbreaking endorsement deals. Teams now have their own planes and new facilities. Many WNBA players have become household names, some of the most recognizable figures in sports today. There is real, genuine discourse about the games and the players right now that exists beyond the diehard fans. Conversations about the WNBA are now no longer about the legitimacy of the league itself, but instead about its players, records being broken, rivalries, the playoffs, title hopes, the draft, and up-and-coming prospects. It's understandable that Caitlyn's explosion in popularity has caused a lot of tension. Why is she getting all the attention when there's tons of great players around the league doing great things? The answer to that question? Well, it depends on who you ask. But there's no denying the widespread impact Clark has made on the league in just a single season. For years, players in the WNBA pushed for people to give their talents and their skills and the product a chance. And in record numbers, people finally are. Now, what it took to get them to tune in may not be the most ideal circumstance, where for many casual fans, one player is overshadowing the vast majority of an entire league, but it's 1,000 steps in the right direction. Whether the Caitlyn Clark effect will have a lasting impact on the league and retain these new viewers and fans and continue to draw in more in the future is something that only time will tell. But one season in, and she is on a path to being one of the very few truly game-changing athletes of her generation. And yes, she's got all the talent to back it up.
Thank you to Jimmy High Roller. If you haven't subscribed to his page by now, you should. And I'd be surprised if you're a basketball fan if you haven't, because he's got over 2.5 million subscribers. Keep it real. Let's keep it a buck. Let's keep it 100. Let's do it the right way. Caitlyn Clark, he says at the end, it's about who you asked. There's a reason she's generational. That's it. There's nothing else. She will go down as the most important player in the history of the WNBA. Period. Point blank. There's nothing else to discuss when it comes to this. He is the most important figure in the history of this league. They're getting deals because of her. They're getting noticed because of her. You can show me them full buildings. Those full buildings were probably because she was playing there that day. Because they still played in front of a bunch of empty-ass buildings where 6 of the damn 12 teams still play in Band-Aid boxes, and 3 of them play in arenas that are smaller than 7,000 fans. So, miss me with the bullshit. Miss me with the bullshit. This is about one player who has changed the course of history for a league. Generational. That's all this is. She is the generational player. She is changing history. Sorry, ladies, it wasn't you. It's her. It's always been her. And it doesn't matter who comes after, because no one will have had the impact that Caitlyn Clark has had in the WNBA. That's all I got. Let me know what your thoughts are on this video. Let me know your thoughts on what Jimmy Hyrule had to say, my commentary, etc. Because end of the day, I will bet right now the WNBA draft last year, what was the viewership for it? WNBA draft TV ratings 2024, 2.45 million viewers. I will bet you it doesn't draw half that next season. Half. If it does 1.2 million, that's a great number. That's a great number. Caitlyn Clark ain't there. Maybe she should do the introductions. But she's not being drafted. It won't do half that. If it does half that, I will say congratulations, because it ain't going to come close to 2.45 million. But that's all I got. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow. Ring that bell. Hit that like button and share this video. Greatly appreciate you. And be sure to also go on to Come On Now, the podcast, and subscribe over there. Facts over feelings, baby. Come on. Let's go.